Good afternoon. This is a friend speaking to you. It's a friend that's been with a few of the elders, a few of the chiefs over the last 25 years. I think it's time we had a clear conversation with each other about what's really happening inside the nations. Before I go forward, I want to thank the elders who have taught me how to speak, the chiefs who told me what it means to understand traditional ways, and to have the opportunity to sit with you over these years. It's brought both great sadness and great joy in my life, and it's helped me. And I want to thank you. But we need to speak to an issue at hand that's happening to a lot of the nations. And what it is a process of, to be quite honest with you, in the larger picture, it's about genocide. It's about taking over your nation from within. It's about taking advantage of the suffering and the pain and the loss, the residential schools, the tearing away of your culture from within. And where are we today? Well, I'm sad, but I've been given permission to speak, so I'm trying to find the right words, and that's a true challenge. So I ask for your patience in the few things I got to say to you, but I want you to understand what's happening to your nation is happening to an awful lot of the First Nations, the original people of the countries. Canada, Bolivia, Peru, Argentina, Chile, United States, New Zealand, Australia. We have friends in each of those countries, and they're speaking to me. They're speaking now, that they're seeing the same pattern that I am seeing, that I have been seeing for years inside of your nations. So let's talk about that right now. The process between your traditional way of being, your own way, what the elders are saying. In the northern regions, it's called Layuk, which means the law of the people, which comes from the land, comes from the clans, comes from the people. And how that law has been pushed aside, where outside interests are coming in to take over your country. The way they do it is, years ago they started with band councils. And no self-respecting elder or hereditary chief would originally sit on these band councils because it would be seen as a form of surrender. We all know that. So the hereditary chiefs and the hereditary system has kind of been slowly pushed aside because the traditional laws of your land are the way to solve this problem. There's a reason there's high chiefs and matriarchs. There's a reason there's medicine societies. And there's a reason for conflict, because out of conflict comes change. But when that conflict is inside your nation, who are the agents that are in charge of that conflict? And how do they do that? So I'm going to tell you how they do that, because I've had the opportunity to sit. This is the 11th group in the last 20 years that I've sat. I've never been allowed to speak because I'm always a visitor. And under traditional law, a visitor is not allowed to speak. But I've been invited to speak, so I ask you to listen to my words. Listen to the way that I speak, and recognize that I was taught by your own elders how to speak this way. It doesn't matter which nation I'm speaking to today, but if you can understand my words, and understand how it's inside your own nation, and you'll understand that it's happening to not just your nation, but to many of the nations. Not just in Canada, with the BC Treaty Commission, but every treaty commission in every province across this country. What I need to speak to you about is how things migrated from band councils to treaty commissions, to tribal councils, to treaty societies. And at the same time, your traditional laws were pushed aside. And all the pain and suffering your elders suffered, from the residential schools to the stripping away of your lands. While in the middle of a treaty negotiation, logging trucks are rolling outside of your land. You know it's not right. I know it's not right. But it's happening. They're taking advantage of your pain and your suffering, and they're turning you against each other. But why? What's the agenda? What's the motive? Well, I think First Nations can see it much more clearly than those who aren't in the really remote areas where the resources of this country are. A lot of non-native people don't see what you have to face. And what you're facing is the spear of corporate corruption. And it's being controlled by governments outside of your countries, not land claims, not territories, your countries. So when I hear people say Gitxsan, Gitxsan is the name of the land that the people carry. Or I hear Niska, and I was there. In Guanhais, I was there. In Kanesatagi, at Chateauguay, I was right there. I was never allowed to speak, and have been finally given permission, because I think the elders realize that they've taught me well. So I want to tell you, when the Band Council process was originally put in your place, and the treaties started to come up, and the BC Treaty Commission, for instance, out here in British Columbia, Canada, was put in place, what they did is they selected people that they knew would be collaborators. In other words, people who were really suffering. They knew they could exploit their suffering and turn them against their own people. And we've seen it in the band councils, where money is denied for education because somebody isn't voting, or an elder doesn't get a medical lift out of the reserve and they die because they're not cooperating with the band councils. So where did they get these other people? They selected them outside of those groups. First we had the band councils, and then the treaty commissions started. And these treaty commissions, I don't care what name they're called, treaty commissions, treaty societies, treaty associations, treaty committees, they're not traditional people. What they are is traditional people being manipulated by outside concerns. People using pain and suffering backwards against your own people. We need to speak clearly about this. We need to do it in such a way that we don't insult our own people and our own friends who've been caught in the same problem.